Okay.
Yes, I'm not sure how far we are away from soon. I'm being advised by our very able technician who's supporting, who always supports us. But I want to make sure that we have Professor Robinson and he doesn't think that we're abandoning him. We can't. We will not do such a thing, especially that I know a number of people are waiting to hear from Professor Robinson on the question of the 2025 budget. In the meantime, though, there are some highlights. They are really they're printed on the front page, starting anyway, of the Searchlight newspaper for this week, in a column that says 2025 budget highlights at a glance. And I thought it'd be useful, even as we wait on Professor Robinson, to I can read them out just to prepare for when Professor Robinson comes on and begin to detail. And I want to do so now. And I'm doing so against the background that alongside this column is another column says no new taxes. So people need to bear that in mind. Okay, so among the budget highlights are increase civil servant salary by 2.5%. And it has in bracket the third payment to public sector employees worked out with their respective bargaining agents. Completion of the $668 million modern Kingston cargo port. Construction of no fewer than 1,000 houses for persons who were affected by the volcanic eruptions of 2021 and by Hurricane Beryl of July 1, 2024. Distribution of $30 million in income support to farmers, fishers, and other vulnerable Vincentians. Complete the Barley Blackfish Processing Center. Advance construction on the modern arrowroot factory at Orange Hill. Build more than 70 stretches of road statewide. Advance construction of the Arnorsville Acute Care Hospital. Start semi-professional netball and football leagues. Launch the FAST Fund to support Olympic athletes' quest for the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. Launch a national orchestra. Launch GIVE, which is the acronym, a youth volunteer organization. Launch a dedicated program to provide free transportation to persons with disabilities. Commence construction of a vendor's market in Georgetown and expand the shops in Glen. Pilot a mathematics support program to provide additional support in maths for primary and secondary school students. Begin construction of the Marriott Resort at Mount Wynn. Begin construction of the Sander Bay, Thomas Sanders, and the Brighton Secondary Schools, the Kingston Anglican School, the Grimble Hall at the Girls High School. Begin the construction of cultural, educational, and wellness and production hubs at Bellevue, Park Hill, Chumaka, and Petty Bordel. Provide 2,600 laptops for community college and secondary school students. Install lights and a warm-up track at the Sir Vincent Beach Stadium at Diamond. Begin construction of a modern Parliament building at Beachmount. begin or complete construction of 11 clinics, conduct targeted and sustained police operation against criminals, and initiate community policing in high-risk areas.
And,
From a budget of $1.8 billion.
and in the speech, it ends it by saying, and we will do it all without raising taxes or fees.
Right. And that's why I had mentioned at the beginning that against the background of no new taxes. Now, I'm sure a number of people are questioning where's the money coming from to do all of this. And it's one of the questions I want to put to Professor Robinson when you get him on. Because it's clear that the state is playing a big role in financing a lot of these initiatives. So the question I want to put to Professor Robinson is, what's the take on the state financing these?
And Cecil, and there is this issue about plans in relation to reality. Um, this is interesting that the first part of the speech indicates what was planned and what was accomplished. Um, there's a very long list. So that gives us the idea that when it comes to implementation, we're probably on track.
Well, I'm sure Minister Gonzalez would agree with you, but we want to hear some reaction. We're still waiting to bring in Professor Robinson. I'm not sure what doing or he's not here. Okay, I have to. Yes, Charlie, yes.
Okay, well, I have to talk about Bali. So, Cecil, I'm still in a different lane, maybe in a different road on this question of the. But I have a few things while we await Professor Robertson to come.
Just before you, I just want to say, someone has indicated that he was listening on Star. So, given that there was no streaming from WEFM, but I just want to say that the streaming is up now, right? And going. So, and if anybody wants to switch, just to announce that the streaming is going. We're back on WEFM, that is. Yes, Charles.
Yes. First of all, the budget, and you read out some highlights and say that budget presentations today, they are different to some degree, or how they're received are different to how they were, say, 30, 40, or 50 years ago. Long ago, we depended on the budget presentation and the response by the leader of the opposition to find out what is happening in the economy and in terms of social plans and so forth. But today, first of all, with the track record of the parliament in terms of the regular meetings, the live broadcasts, and so forth, and the use of different types of media to get the message across, a lot of the things in the budget would have been discussed, ventilated, and so on, maybe in the latter half or all of last year. So I'm just saying that by and large that they are for 2025, but it's a good thing that persons can still have a chance to digest them further and so on, and that they are not entirely new to our ears and so on. So I just wanted to make that point, and I think it's a process that is better given the channels and opportunities to communicate and so forth. But it's not anything that is taken entirely by surprise.
Well, except to say that it's not that it's taken by surprise. It's what's in the budget for this year. So I think it's important to.
No. Let me finish. Let me just. I'm just what really wanted. Okay, I'm not discounting the importance. I'm just saying that the budget process, how it is there's a difference between information communicated 40 years ago and how information is communicated today. And I think that in the way that what we have today is better than how things were before, right? So it gives persons an opportunity to analyze things better as well. Persons who are responding, persons outside of the parliament. So I'm just making that point and so forth.
Oh, okay.
Right? So
Okay.
it is not a case sometimes you just have to wait. It was like a surprise.
Okay.
We used to wait and hey, like an accounting firm might give an analysis of the budget and so forth. But there are persons and so on who are like the things that they're quite familiar, or we're quite familiar with a lot of them and so on. And we would have an appreciation as to where it goes and where they go and what it means to us and so on. The other thing that I just wanted to say that for me, in terms of a budget, what do I look for? I look for the analysis of the economic and social issues of the day and the plan to address these issues, particularly now. What's the plan? What excites me most, I see myself more like thinking long term as a sort of a futurist. And I would love also to hear about the plans for tomorrow as well. How these actions and activities in 2025 would result in a particular end in itself, or how they lead to goals in 2030, 2035, or even up to 2050. But Cecil and Pijan, my different approaches, that there's some issues. What are the issues of the day that I extracted from the budget? For example, like housing, inflation, employment, debt and debt servicing, investment trends, production, pension, protection of our coastline, and so on, as a consequence of climate change, construction, and then I see like sports and culture as economic drivers, and the health and so forth. And I may not have enough time before Professor Roberts comes, but I just wanted just to make one comment, Pijan, in relation to the question of housing. I'll start with housing, and God has concerned me for some time that the commitment to the construction of 1,000 houses, to my mind, is significant. It is,
Joel, I just sorry to cut, but I just wanted to say that anytime Professor Robbins comes in, we'd have to accommodate him, because in fact, those same issues that you've raised are all issues we would want to hear him speak to, and then perhaps he can respond to him. But him being the guest, I think that's what we would expect to have him address. But also also want to say that we seem to be, I don't know why, but he's not coming in, and that's usually not like him. So but yes, we would want to make sure he gets in and he could respond to all of those issues. So I just wanted to say that.
yeah, that is why I said the point, Cecil, that is why I believe that my time may only allow me to speak to the question of housing. So I just wanted to make a particular point in relation to housing, and I just expressing my particular opinion in relation to housing and so forth, right? So I'll just stick on that housing issue. So the construction of another 1,000 houses and so on, that's fantastic and so on, and I'm good with that. Obviously, it will take a good bit of money, and I do believe that I'm not too sure whether or not the government has certain limits or parameters within which the construction would take place. For example, if it's a housing in response, well, it's said in response to the volcanic eruption and burial. But I'm just dealing specifically with storms. And if it's roofs and so on, the issue. I would like to say, for example, if the government says, well, okay, we are going to, for each, depending on the level, depending on the house and the damage, and say for each homeowner and so on, they can have up to, Pijan, say up to $30,000 or maybe even, or a question of $30 per square foot of the upper level of your home. So at least persons can know what they're doing and that there are limits. So that if you, for example, if you have a $500,000 home and it has got damage, like that the government or the state should not necessarily come back and construct and giving you a house to replace what you have and so on. Even if the damages is 200,000, that you should not necessarily look forward to getting that. But so I believe then that there should be that certain limits on each home, and that persons can, in a storm, that persons can look for that in case of anything, that the state can assist up to a particular level. But this is the key point that I wanted to introduce, is that with the rate of insurance, of home insurance being so low, I think that the insurance agencies, the insurance companies need to come in with policies that can fill the gap that may very well exist. And I think that we should be able to introduce policies that say maybe you can get a $50,000 policy from an insurance company that focusing primarily on the peril of storms, hurricanes, and the like, primarily or only, and that this is, you can get up to 50,000 and at a cost of $6, $8 or whatever it might be per $1,000 in terms of the value of that particular home, and it will be deal with specific issues, so that if we can get and encourage 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 homeowners to take up a policy like that, because then if you look at it, and if it's up to $50,000 and you're paying $6 a thousand, that to my mind works out to only like $300 a year, and that's not a lot of money. And I think that we can have a policy like that. What does it do for you? It helps you to address issues in the storm, maybe the beams, issues with the rafters and so forth. So you buy the policy, you go to your insurance company, and then you go to the government afterwards to help to fill whatever is needed to be filled. But I think that we should see housing as pivotal. I know that we need to do means testing and so forth, and I do that mean that people are different income brackets and so forth. But many more persons would be able to get some degree of protection or cover if they have a policy that will cost them no more than $60 or $70 a month and so forth. And that money and so on, that once they make that commitment, then it can go a long way. And then it eases the burden on the government. And you can also, at the same time, that you have the guarantee of the government to come and help you ensure that at the end of the day, that you can renovate, reconstruct, rehabilitate, fix your house, so up to the point in relatively quick order. But I think it should not just be left up to the state alone. That I think that each homeowner has a responsibility, and that responsibility must be matched with a policy put out by insurance companies that are reasonable and can meet and fit the pocket of the average Vincentian. And that's the point, Pigeon, that
you seem to be adding fine print to the general policy of building 1,000 homes, not just simply saying you build 1,000 homes, but have other initiatives that can enable home ownership and reconstruction.
Yeah, because I don't want the persons to think, oh, well, the government is going to build 1,000 homes. So therefore, anything happens, I may not need to do something that, well, I won't get a house. That kind of thing. And I really don't, to my mind, that we have a responsibility as well. And it is not just a case for the government and to simply say, well, things happen and things will happen. But at the same time, we have a responsibility as well to do what is required first and foremost to construct, based on your pocket, the strongest, most resistant house to hurricanes as possible. And then you can get the policy that can cover you, that can match your pocket, and so on. And I'm just basically saying, I know they'll raise issues about reinsurance and all that kind of thing. But by and large, I would love the insurance companies to say, what is possible? Isn't there? What is possible in terms of having policies that can provide some degree of cover and help out a struggling man and a struggling family in times of their housing need, consequent upon the passage and the damage coming from hurricanes such as Beryl.
Gentlemen, I just want to give an update. We seem to be having a difficulty connecting with Professor Robinson. I'm not sure if it's from our end or his end. Things are leaving us from our end, but he doesn't seem to be receiving. Even calling him direct from this end, the call was made, but he doesn't seem to be receiving. But we will continue to wait and to try and connect with Professor Robinson in the meantime. There are other things in the budget we may wish to respond to. And I know that Prime Minister is listening to the program. He's following the program this morning. So he may, not now, later on, he may, or even Finance Minister may wish to call to amplify any particular point or clarify any particular point that may be raised on the program, or anyone else for that matter who was part of the process in the Parliament may wish to call and clarify, add, amplify. But we continue to wait on Professor Robinson to see if we can get on to him. Yes, gentlemen?
So I've made my statement in terms of housing. There's something else that the Minister of Finance made that I want to raise. It's not in the list, but I think it's also very important. And it ties in with the whole question of protecting our coastline and the installation, construction of grinds. I don't recall if he had specified exactly where the aid would be focused. Maybe he might have said this the south coast and somewhere in the western side or in the Villa area and so on. I believe he might have, but I think it's that becomes very important if the grinds can be put in. And I don't know if person basically know what a grind is.
Say what it is.
So
yeah,
by and large, the grind would be made of mainly something that is mainly made out of boulders. It could be out Gabion baskets. It could be made out of wood and so forth, but the wood may not last as long. And you put this out to sea. Sometimes it can run perpendicular to the shoreline, or it can be parallel, but parallel and perpendicular, or it can be curved and so on. But they have different ways in which it is. But by and large, the ground protects the coastline from wave action, especially when there's a storm and so on and erosion. I heard the Minister of Finance speak yesterday or the day before, sorry, when you even mentioned the time when you used to go to the beach and so on, like at Indian Bay and so forth, and you could play cricket and football on the beach. Now, if you try to stretch out and think that if you put your head against the wall, that your feet would be in the water. And so that is what is that. I'm very much aware of that. So, but I think that the cost, and I don't know what the cost of putting in these grinds, but it can actually do a lot to protect the coastline, to protect the beach, and save us some money a lot of money in the long run, and help to boost our touristic product and to push tourism and so on. There are a lot of things that we can get from it. So I think it is the return on the investment. It's going to be significant. Some persons might say that grinds might make the whole coastline look a little bit ugly and so forth. But it can maybe be done as tastefully as possible. And grinds is not unique to the Caribbean and around the world. And they've been done as tastefully as possible and so forth. And function and aesthetics, in this particular case, function is what matters most. And I think this is something that I would really love to see, because I believe all of us, those of us who enjoy the beach, those of us who need the beach and the coast to make a living and so on, there's a lot. I just believe strongly that the return on investment is going to be great. It's not, I raise it now, not because it's maybe like the top of the list in terms of the things that came out of the budget per se, but I raise it because I think it's something that persons, while the Ministry of Finance, the government will treat it seriously, I think may not necessarily be a talking point for some persons until they see it in it happening at our shows. But I just thought it was important, and it is something that I commend highly.
Okay, still waiting on Professor Robinson to come in, and I've been trying to reach him directly. Have been unable to do so, but we continue to wait on him.
Like I want a third one.
Well, but let me say this before we go on to the third one. I want to respond to the editorial opinion in the Socialite newspaper, where they're under the caption, very commendable, no substitute, and they were talking about the Prime Ministerial Advisory Council, National Advisory Council on Youth. But you would recall, gentlemen, that there was this fantastic activity that they organized last weekend, and it was judged extremely successful. And well, different people have had different reactions to the formation and launch of the Prime Ministerial Advisory Council on Youth. And now the Socialite opinion is saying very commendable, but no substitute. Well, I don't know if it was meant to be a substitute for a National Youth Council. I don't know, but for the purpose for what it was set up, I think it's been doing a very good job. And I agree with the Socialite newspaper for judging the activity, or judging it very commendable, its formation. But where I seem to have a little difficulty with the opinion is that they're as if they're equating it with the formation of the National Youth Council in 1966, because it cannot be. The National Youth Council is a entirely non-governmental entity. It was. I don't know if any of you guys served on the National Youth Council. Jolly,
briefly.
Yeah. So it wasn't set up by government. It was an entity whose time had come, and its formation was influenced by the progressive, quote unquote, progressive politics that was happening in that period of time. And the people who were connected, some directly and some indirectly, to the political activities and formations of that era, they were moved to form the National Youth Council, which achieved a number of historic things in the socio-economic development, political development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So we are to recognize that. First of all, it was the formational ground, if you like, the grounding of a number of persons who turned out subsequently to become leading politicians in St. Vincent. And one is there now, the Honorable Curtis King. He has come out of that tradition. And also Israel Bruce was partly linked to the National Youth Council. But they were not the product of a government-initiated action or actions. So we need to recognize that. So any subsequent body that wants to play the role that a National Youth Council played, in my view, had to come up in a similar way, not connected with government. But this government sees it's fit to set up what is called the Prime Ministerial Advisory Council on Youth as part of its programming. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In the same sense that I would think if whichever other political party wants to set up an advisory council, an advisory whatever it is on youth, they're free to do so.
But I wouldn't hope that we go down the line. I don't want our young people to be viewed through.
Well, I'm not saying what they should. No. I'm not saying what they should or should not do. All I'm saying.
That's why I'm hoping.
Yeah. But let me finish my thought and my point. It's up to them. If in the sense that when the NYC was formed, and it did fantastic work, effective work, it wasn't. It was influenced by political views of that era. But so I'm saying, if any religious grouping wants to do so, they're fine to do so, and so it cannot be compared, in my view, to the work of the Prime Ministerial Advisory Council on Youth. That is the point I'm making. There's a distinction. Between, and it ought to be so, between something.
So that you're saying there's a void then.
I'm not.
Are you saying that? Are you suggesting that you would love to see the resurgence of an NYC?
It would be good as a man who've come out of the NGO tradition. It would be good.
Okay, good.
But we cannot expect government to do it. That's the point I'm making.
No, that's all right. That's okay. That's okay. But I just want to come because I just remember that I used to be on the radio program because NYC had a program on 705 radio. And I appeared a few times. At that time, Jeff James was one who was that thing. And I was on that radio program for some time. It was a long time ago. But the NYC as well, the problem is not just in terms of the NYC, but the problem is the assembly, the organization of young people into groups and so forth to deal with community activities, student type of activity, religious and so on. So there were a lot of groups back then. I was part of the NUS, so which had to do with students in St. Vincent and Grenadines and so forth. There are a lot. I remember good, strong groups like the Anglican Youth Group and so. There are lots and so forth right around the country. Catholic Youth Movement and so. So on a religious basis that they were strong. If you go to community, I remember like in South with Penistone, they were a lot. But where are they today? And I think it is something that we should encourage for them, the groups to be reconstituted, to be reestablished, and that the group collectively, that they can actually come back towards the establish something like the NYC.
Before, I just want to say, Peter, quickly that I'm in touch with somebody who has advised me that he was trying to reach himself, Professor Robinson, but it seems that he was not. He has not been on the system for over an hour, so maybe they're having difficulty. I'm not sure, but we will continue to monitor if he can and will come in. I was in touch with him up to last night, so I need an indicator anything. So I'm hoping that he will come in later in the program. Yeah, I also want you to say though that the NYC, National Youth Council, not only did it play a big role in social formation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but I remember very clearly, under the leadership of Minister Curtis King, the NYC of St. Vincent linked with the NYC in St. Lucia, and they played a pivotal role in the formation of a regional, if you like, NYC, a movement for youth. So that it's not only here in St. Vincent, but the NYC played a big role in the region, in the regional formation.
The Caribbean Federation of Youth.
Yeah. This it was, the initiative came largely from the NYC in St. Vincent under the leadership of Curtis King. And then you have other people who were linked to that. I remember Arthur Bob was one of those people linked to that. And other young people at the time that they played leading roles, and we have to also recognize that. But again, not funded by government. It's what you said, Joel.
Is someone asking that it be funded by government?
No.
So
and
why are you repeating that?
Because I've heard a number of people calling on government to form the National Youth Council.
That's
the National Youth Council is not a government initiative, and that's why I was distinguishing between the Prime Ministerial council, advisory council for government, as opposed to the National Youth Council. Their formation is two different
The
things.
thing is, government has an agenda for youth.
Yeah.
And in putting the agenda into effect, they have come
A
up with a
structure.
particular structure,
A structure to do it.
to assist it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
So,
So that is what it is.
I'm not. I didn't read the editorial, the opinion in the Searchlight properly, and so I'm not just saying, but I just basically said that. So there's the
I was not opposing the opinion. I was just
Right.
saying. I was just adding these things.
So I'm just inviting you to say, let us focus more on the program is good. The Prime Ministerial Youth
Advisory Council.
is fine, but our thing too, because I think it is critical that we see youth go back and form organization, and that is what we should focus to.
You mean we as a nation?
We as a nation,
Yeah.
yes, and we can play a part in encouraging that and so forth, in the communities, in the schools, in the churches, and so forth. And then they can come together and then decide whether they will form something similar or to the NYC.
But there are a number of youth organizations, whether it's sporting bodies, religious bodies, and so on and so forth, around, which is really the framework that solve the formation and sustenance of the National Youth Council when it functioned. So it seems that what we need is somebody from those groupings to take the leadership and form and resuscitate, if you like, a National Youth Council.
And government over the years has been providing a subvention
yeah.
to the National Youth Council. And I think, as far as I know, I think they have the current budget also highlight contribution to the National Youth Council.
And
Gentlemen, somebody was calling. I missed it. So
space in some up in French is there. But if you think I would like to, okay.
Somebody was trying to call, and I missed it because I wasn't paying attention. So the person may wish to call us again. Yeah, sorry, Joel, you were saying?
No, I just wanted to whether or not there's time to mention a third thing in relation to the budget as taking a different approach. This I'm just asking that question. Where are we with Professor Robinson and whether or not
Still waiting.
I can go back to touch on something in the.
I'm still waiting, and in the meantime, I don't know. A call, as a number showed up, and I was wondering if I should take that call, but it disappeared. So the person may wish to call us again. Not the number, but the call I noticed. But we're still waiting to see if we will hear from Professor Robinson. If there's a problem, well, I can't anticipate yet. Let me just say that yet. But somebody's calling, so let's take this call. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
I just joined you late, but I have you are lamenting of the lack of youth councils.
No, we're not lamenting. You use the wrong word.
All right.
But who's calling? Tell us who's calling. Tell us who's calling. Providence, you said? Hello?
Leroy Providence.
Oh, Leroy Providence. Okay. Keep in mind that as you know, we are waiting to get Professor Robinson in. So if you come, then I have to.
Well,
but go ahead. Make a point.
Yeah. You see, I said, you made the point that we not have the number of youth councils and youth bodies.
You're breaking up. We're not hearing you well at all. Maybe you might want to shift a bit.
All right.
You're going to call back, you said? Yeah, we're not hearing him. I believe the bad line.
Are you hearing me better now?
But now we're hearing you better. Go ahead.
Oh, very good. Yes, I think the reason for this significant reduction in the number of youth bodies in the district is that a lot of people have moved out of their original districts. For example, right there, you have several people who in my district of St. David, and we have moved out over the years, coming to school to Kingston and coming to Kingston for work. But another thing that has hampered us is our crippling of our agriculture sector, because a lot of these youth people are agriculturally anchored. In my area, in my area, we had three teams at least operating every holiday. Some of them have gone out to tour in the country, and some are playing at home. So those were important structures too in the socialization of the youth. Another thing that we don't have, which would have influenced the youth council, is the village councils, the local governments. Look, so long we have been talking about local government, about both parties talk about reintroducing local, and up to now, nothing has been done. We in Annisville here were invited to meetings at the Methodist Church Hall, and the last meeting we went to many years ago, almost decades ago, was Michael Finley and another gentleman, prominent player from Mesopotamia, was there, who were conducting the sessions. And we had come to the point where we said, listen, we know we had youth, the village council, local government before, so let us go back and see what was used to prevail there, and then come back and decide how we're going forward. We have not had any. The populace was just abandoned. They didn't turn back up at all. And nothing has been said, and nothing is being said now. So, we can't have. So it is reasonable now to conclude that this youth council business, Prime Minister Youth Council, it has been organized to corral the young people for political support. That is how I interpret that now, and that is reasonable, because up to now, not a note of local government. So another thing too, I just read from the scripture here, is not wisdom found among the aged, does not understanding come with a long life, and that could have come, that with channeling or accessing wisdom could have come through the village councils, which in my time we had the senior people involved in discussing the issues of the villages and making decisions, and some positive things came out of that. We in Chumaka, the village of Chumaka, out of that thing came a relocation of people who were threatened by
Hi, Providence. Hold on a minute.
Hello.
Don't go. I just want to update. I have a message here from.
Okay, sure, man.
Don't go. Hold on.
Not
Just to say that from Professor Robinson saying he had an emergency this morning,
I see.
and that he will be able to join in about 30 to 40 minutes or so. So
okay.
he will come on, but I just wanted to let our listeners know that he has indicated that he had an emergency. So go ahead.
Yeah, incidentally, that Professor Robinson promised to make a very important, support to our societal discussion. And I was looking forward that by now we would have had him back. I remember attending a lecture he gave at the UE Center some years ago. So I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say.
Don't worry, we intend to bring him on regularly at his convenience this year anyway. But go ahead.
Very good, because my argument, in this season of electoral discussion, we should be having as many of our quality leaders, quality people, intellectuals coming for us to discuss the issues which have been impacting us negatively, so that we can properly and soberly make a decision as to how we're going forward. So, gentlemen, as I was saying, yes, the aged also have part to play. So when we have talking about this, don't just talk about organizing youth groups, because that to me has an inkling of controlling the youth so that we could use them for political mileage, So, gentlemen, thank you very much for listening, and I will continue to listen.
All right. Thanks for calling and giving your ideas. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Yes. So we're still going to be hearing from Professor Robinson Sujel, as you've heard. So you have some time.
Okay. Yes, I want to say something about having deficit budgets, the pros and cons, and I also wanted to talk about tourism. The question of deficit budgets, I believe that I can speak to the pros and cons as I see them, but I believe that this is something that Professor Robinson may wish to touch on. It's the kind of thing that he would want to speak to.
In fact, I intend to ask him specifically on that one.
Well, and I can actually add in my 2 cents when that time comes. But if the time allows and it's thing, that I can come back to it. But I would just want to talk about tourism. Um, by and large, I do not have the information in terms of the contributors to our gross domestic product, how it is broken down in percentage terms. What percentage is agriculture, what is in retail trade and so forth, what is tourism, and so I don't have that information before me, and so on. But however, I just wanted to say that I think that the trust in tourism is, to my mind, game changing with regard to economic development. And since a lot of it rides on the back of the construction of the AIA at our guide. So it's very important, because sometimes these things are fundamental if you want to transform your economy, this particular sector of the economy, in a significant way. And we're beginning to see the impact already. It is my understanding, for example, even as a kid, even with regard to pension and the NIS, the investment in by Sandals, and then the prospect of Marriott and other hotels and the like is would make a significant contribution to the NIS. And then as a result, pensioners are concerned about inflation and what they're getting, how far their pension dollar can go. Then the possibilities is that you can get a possible increase in your monthly or fortnightly pension as a consequence of investment, particularly in the expansion of the tourism sector in particular, right? So what I wanted to say, as we get Sandals and we get the Marriott and so on, we get a particular class of hotels. And we have gone to Holiday Inn, which is a step or two below that, and so forth. What I wanted to see in St. Vincent is that the existing hotels, or some of them, follow the trade or pattern of others, and to expand their room stock, because we do not have sufficient room stock as yet in St. Vincent where the hotels are concerned. I commend Vincentians who are investing in the apartments and so forth, and quite a bit of activities taking place there right now, and so forth. And I encourage them to register with the tourism authority, and so very important. But I think at the same time, we need some of the long-standing hotels to expand their room stock further, because as we go into an area of tourism where we're hosting meetings and conferences and so forth, because not every conference or not every meeting can be held at Sandals and so forth. We need to be able to have hotels in proximity to each other that can actually accommodate 200 persons and the like. And I think that the concessions and the incentives are already there. I don't think there's need, as far as I'm aware, is that the need for the government to provide any more concessions. That it just now for those responsible for promoting and triggering the investment should be having discussions. That is the Investor SVG, the Tourism Authority should be having discussions with these hoteliers to see how they can actually expand the room stock, because I think that becomes very, very critical and so forth as we go forward. I just wanted to make that point that there was a time when we felt that tourism was only for the Grenadines, particularly, well, the Grenadines as a whole. and not mainland St. Vincent. And now we see what difference it has made just by Sandals alone. And there's so many things can be done in terms of mainland St. Vincent. And I really commend those who were bold enough and so on. I read a comment that that there was the government, I think by the Minister of Finance. I don't have it before me, but he used terms like facilitative and more or less to say that it was not a passive thing in terms of the Sanders investment in St. Vincent and Grenadines. I think it is crucial, and I think that the foresight and the vision to recognize that mainland St. Vincent has an important role to play. It's just now for us to respond accordingly and take advantage of what is stated in the budget and what is not stated in the budget to get the investment going. And it should not just be left to the state, that the private sector needs to get involved where that is concerned.
I have the latest update from Professor Robinson, and unfortunately, he's saying, I am not in the best state of mind after. Apparently, there was an emergency situation in the area, the apartment, the complex where he lives, this morning. So he's saying, given that, he'd prefer to speak on another occasion. So which means we'd have to try and get him in next week, Sunday, instead of today. Apparently, he has had, there was, seemed to have been an emergency situation in the complex where he lives. So he's saying he's not in the best state of mind. And that's quite understandable. And we would want to, well, we're hoping that nothing happened to him or his immediate family. Certainly nobody in the complex. We're hoping that they're all well and safe. But we would want him to be in the best state of mind to address the issues arising out of the budget 2025. So we thank him in the meantime and for keeping us informed. And we look forward to having him on a different occasion, another occasion. Perhaps next week I'll be in touch with him to see if he'd be ready to do it then or sometime subsequently. Yes, Joel, so.
Okay. All right. Well, can I just touch, and if you have anything in relation to tourism to add, and we want to come back to agriculture at some point, but I just made the point about the question of having deficit budgets, right? And this budget, and maybe Pigeon or yourself can help me to find that figure, but I think that with regard to the recurrent budget, that I think that anticipated expenditure is about $5 or $6 million over anticipated revenue.
Yeah,
right?
I think you're correct.
Right. So that therefore virtually to me it is not a huge sum, but effectively where the recurrent budget is concerned, it's regarded as a deficit budget. I know in the past that person say, well, that we have a surplus budget. I'm going back to the late 1980s, the 1990s, and so forth and so forth. But I don't think that persons should be alarmed about having a deficit budget. I think that there are pros and there are benefits in actually having a deficit budget, and there may be things to look out for as well. So it's a stimulus for economic growth. It can help boost demand. It can get some infrastructural programs going and so forth. And especially when you have need in an economic crisis, which we had one, well, we have one continuing now as a consequence of burial and so forth and so forth. And if we've had downturns coming out of COVID and so forth, that in cases like this, you may very well just need to have a deficit budget of whatever percentage that is pragmatic under the circumstances. It also flexibility in fiscal policy. Sometimes, as I mentioned, you have to read economic crises trigger these things. So and you need the funds and you need for emergency responses, as we've had in terms like the supplemental budget and so forth. So again, it allows you to do certain things other than trying in a economic downturn to try to be talking about increasing taxes and so forth. And then another, it would be like, if you, to my mind, is like an investment in future income that you spend today, and if it is as a consequence of the extra expenditure, that you're going to get the returns tomorrow. By all means, there's nothing wrong with that. And I say sometimes we are told, or we used to be told by the IMF and so on, that do not spend what you don't have. Of course, there's some things that we have to look out for. And the question of the debt burden, because if you spend more than you have to get the money from somewhere and so forth. So you have to then know. So debt management becomes very, very important. And I actually heard the Minister of Finance in the budget speak about the debt management unit in the Ministry of Finance. And I wanted to get some more information on how it works and so on, and how key it is in terms of this team working towards managing the debt, because we have a situation now where we virtually have to spend 35%, 36%, I think, goods of our expense going towards servicing debt and so forth. So you virtually have to be on top of things and so on. And the things that you need to do must be done at the same time. We need the new port, and the port will trigger other things that will give you the income and so forth to pay back the debt and so forth. The possibility of inflation, if you don't manage it, but I don't think that the $5 or $6 million is going to make any significant difference where inflation is concerned. But I just say it for what it is worth. Fortunately, we don't print money. We don't have the authority to print money like the United States and so forth. And they can therefore have a 34 trillion debt that they have to, debt burden that they have to deal with. Or in fact, there are people who are arguing that time will come when they will just not service that debt. But in our case, we're different and so forth. But in inflation, $5, $6, $10 million over anticipated revenue is not going to make any significant difference. The question of interest rates, if you get to, depending on where the debt is, because there was talk about the local debt versus debt from overseas sources, loans from overseas sources versus borrowings. And I think at the end of the budget debate, they passed the bill to deal with for the government to be able to borrow. I think is up to $85 million in terms of overdraft. With the three banks mentioned, and the key and operative word there was fluctuated and so forth. And maybe we could have a discussion on that, or the PM also he made a statement about that, and I think it's in response to a question or comment raised by the leader of the opposition and so on. But it is, what does it mean to us in terms of the government is a significant borrower from local banks, and the banks for their own survival say, well, okay, well, boy, we need to give the government concessionary interest rates, but we may not be able to go down low for the average member of the public. And then the other thing too is the question of overall dependence on borrowing. That at the end of the day, yes, we have to be mindful that everything that we do will be taken care of by going out to borrow money. That we should be able to do things from our own coffers as well, even in terms of capital projects from time to time, if it makes financial sense to do so. But sometimes it must not necessarily be, the first thought should not necessarily be automatic, that we're going to go out and borrow. Whatever it is that we're going to go out and borrow. A 3 million project, 5 million project, we're going to go out and borrow it. It's the same we will do for a 500 million project. So that is the thing that we have to be mindful of. And bearing in mind that I think, where does our national debt stand now, Pigeon, Cecil? It's
2 billion.
2.8 billion, I think, somewhere in that vicinity. It's in the speech. It's just that I don't recall.
Okay, all right, but it is there, and we have to service. Yeah, I'm mixing up with another. I had another figure in my mind, but
it could be.
Yeah, we'll get it. We'll find out shortly. But it has to be serviced, and the question would be, who services the debt in the long run? Is it this generation or a subsequent generation, and so forth? So that
but every generation will have to service debt. Every single generation.
Yeah.
So I mean, it has happened. It's been going on even in the past. Subsequent generations, we have been the ones servicing all your debts.
Yeah.
So it always happen. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you, but
no, that's fine. I'm fine. I'm not making a statement, or if it seems to be like put it, but I'm just basically making a statement that you also have to be mindful of the time. As a parent, like say,
Okay.
like if you build a home, you don't want to necessarily make sure that your children have to take over the debt and so on. And so you always have to be mindful of that as well. But at the same time, I am in support of the need on many an occasion to have deficit budgets. It's not a negative, it is positive most times. And I see in the circumstance of the recurrent budget for 2025, I see nothing in that. The government could have said, well, sure, we need another $6 million, so let's find a way how we can increase the taxes to get that $6 million. They took the position, no, we're not going to increase the taxes and so forth. So we're going to find a way how we can get that money to cover that in the future. But I'm just saying that we have to be mindful and so forth. Especially, there's another, I'll leave inflation versus debt on another occasion and see what does it mean to the value of the East Caribbean dollar today versus the value of the East Caribbean dollar in 10 years' time when we have to continue servicing the debt. But that can be tackled. But I just wanted to make that point about deficit budgets, and I basically see nothing wrong with actually having it once it is managed properly.
We can come back, Jolly can come back, but I think I would like to hear, given that Professor Robinson isn't coming on today, we could open up and hear from other folks. I noticed that one or two people have been trying to call us, but I want to start with this comment that somebody shared. The person saying, we raise money through VAT for emergency. That's why we are able to respond by using $50 million after volcanic eruption and burial. And the person goes on, also, if the government is building a port and airport as future investment, then it has to be paid for by our children and our grandchildren who will be using it or them in the future. We are paying for debts from us, from Utley Hall, etc. Is Utley Hall productive? That's what the person is asking. So just want to now open up for other views, other opinions. 457-9997 is the number to call, and you can call us there straight or on WhatsApp, or you can send us a message to be read. So we continue our conversation. We have a call now, so let's take this one. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, greetings, special greetings to you, Cecil, and Pigeon, and Joel for the new year.
Same to you.
I'm calling in. I hope you all are very healthy from the start, as I emphasize. Okay. Bungo Shaka here. So I miss Professor Robertson. I hope that he's okay and everything, because I don't know the situation. I'm trying to figure it out. But
Well, don't speculate until we know for sure what happened.
yeah.
But
No,
in the meantime, we hope that
I
he's well
yeah.
and doing well. I mean, and safe. Him and his family and the other folks who live there and the complex. But we'd hear from him.
Wish everything is airy with him, as we say. Yeah. Joel, I'd like to strengthen a point on you with the tourism discussion you had, right? Now, a few years ago, I think about year two, it was after budget had presented here. Professor Robertson had did a writing. A writing was carried in a paper of his utterance on the budget, right? And one thing I've taken out of that time, I was encouraging the talk about the Grenadines Island per se, where he was emphasizing that more effort should be played in the Grenadines, developing more for tourism attraction purposes, because they do bring a lot of money for the country. And I emphasize on it, and I took from what he was saying, so we should have a bit more development, right? Now, Joel and Pijan, what I'm looking at, and Cecil, is that we have a lot of hotels on the leeward part of our country, as we say, which is the southwestern area. In the Grenadines, we have one large hotel, which is basically the one in Canawan I'm looking at, right? Now, I'm saying that if we can get an investor, local investor, maybe Joel, you the money man, you and Cecil could get
Don't make those idle statements on this program.
Oh yeah.
When you meet Joel,
Yeah.
or if you meet me, you could try joke, but don't make those kind of statements on this program.
I like a humor, you know what I mean? But anyway, Cecil and Joel, right? I'm saying that if we can get, say, the locals or a foreign investor that involving hotel chains, like you had Sanders that came here, that can develop a hotel, maybe say in Beckwell, Myro, right? A place that have much development. I think it would be a good attraction for the Grenadines, maybe a 100 and something room hotel for the start and so on,
I don't think Beckwell wants such a hotel. I think a lot of people in Beckwell were opposed to having hotels with more than 100 rooms, or maybe even more than 50.
Similarly, people in Myro.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, that was just some thinking. You got to educate the people and show them a different. Long-term people think different to now. Now with progression and development, So I'm looking at that, to see if one day can happen, where we could get a bit more larger hotels in some of the Grenadines Islands. And Joel, I'm not going to take no time much. I'd like to add a strength to what you said about Bali. So also Cecil, right? I think that during the reparation talk and so on, right? Repatriatory justice and so on, I think that the British government should be made to assist or pay for that island. The government here negotiate with it. If even they got to make some negotiation with the owners, and well, it can be sold to no other entity anyway. If I was a government, as Prime Minister Comrade have said, right? But I think there should be a lobbying. Maybe send 2 person or 3 person to England side directly. I don't want no communication to phone or whatever. Meet them face, head-on, and bring up, because we have a strong point of reparatory justice, because we have the evidence. The evidence is there in Bali, so we have all the grave sites. We have this. We know the history showing us what they did to the people here of this island. So I think this should be made.
Let me just remind you, the whole of Baliso is the gravesite.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's what I'm speaking of, right? Because I know that. So I think it should be made on a heritage site and so on. I think we have a good case to, as someone has said, they don't think the taxpayers should be responsible of purchasing that. I think it should be the British government should be part of that reparatory justice. So that is my opinion here.
Before you go, except in my view, the and you said the evidence exists. Yes, it is exists in the form of native genocide. We know that it can be disputed, but
right.
I don't think tactically and strategically that the Baliso should be singled out for special. It could be part of it should be part of the argument, but I think it should not be singled out as a particular item to which we would require the British government to respond as part of its giving attention to the whole case of reparatory justice. So, and it's the point I was trying to make earlier when Joel and I were exchanging. I think it is one point in the larger argument, the larger consideration that the British did commit native genocide in St. Vincent. That cannot be disputed. Right. So that is the point. That's the only point. I don't think we need to single out Baliso and tell them to put money to purchase it. It's part of the larger argument. That's my view.
Yes, I don't think directly it is of say a singling out, but we're dealing with that in particular. There was a 10 item, 5 items. We take a one the item, which is the purchase of Baliso, right? And so on to my heritage site and so on, and to keep it and remind us of what transpired there and so on and so on. So, just look at that basis, but not say particular directly singling it out. But this is the talk now about Baliso, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I wish the government well that we can achieve it and save some of our taxpayer money. But lobbying need to go head on with these people.
But in the meantime, it's included in this year's budget. What do you think? It's included the cost of in this year's budget. What do you think?
Yeah, well, if even we pay the taxpayer money, right, we still lobby with these British people to try even get our money reimbursed to them. You know what I mean? Even if it take us 3 years, 5 years, whatever. But let the negotiations.
But hold on. Let me be realistic. As Pijan indicated earlier, this reparatory justice question and reparation is a long time to come in. So in the meantime, we are spending to do certain things to claim ownership, the state claiming ownership of Baliso.
Because Cecil, I would believe that you gotta test something and try it and so on, right? So let's put it under the test and see the result. Like some people say, "Me not go court because you got me this and that." I say, but did you bring up a case to have it in court and then you could come upon and say you didn't get justice or whatever? So you don't speak so and assume things. You got it. You test it. You try it and so on. So I'm looking and see what will be in the future. But it's good that the government put it in the budget. I think that was a very good move. I was impressed when I saw it, and I pick up on the news somewhere from one of those Caribbean news was mentioning it on YouTube. I pick it up there, and I read it, and I say, okay, that's very good. That's a good credit for the government, But I don't know how we're going to go around doing it. Liquor by liquor, I think Comrade will give us some discussion towards how we're going to achieve it. I think that will be a good achievement, for us. So, yes, Cecil. So, thanks a lot for having me. I'm not going to take long. I'm finishing up some cooking. I wish you could have get some of my food, Cecil, straighten up yourself.
No. Don't come with that. You can invite me and tell me exactly which house to come to. Don't wish. You can invite me for some of the food.
And if you're passing, just pass on Block 2000 and you give me a shout. Just 50 yards from Block 2000.
Hold on. Block 2000 is a big area. It has left
7 days church. Only 170 church in Block 2000. The crossroad there. You got to pass here, past my territory to go up Green Hill Shops and so on. So If you had interest, you could call me and I just put some in a takeaway container. You take it home, you know.
Oh, so
Yeah,
you would offer that service, takeaway container.
Man, yeah. If I had a vehicle, you know, while the plan a day on Sunday, just cook some real official food for three of you all.
Yeah.
And make sure bring for Jews and the wife too. Okay, I'll leave out Jews. And I bring everything in a container for you all, but don't have no access to vehicle. So when you're on the radio,
don't worry. Just call after the program and say the food is ready.
Man, yeah, just I telling you, and you have my number there. If you're interested for two, if you're going this way, no, you going country way, and you just branch off by name of day. Won't take 2-3 minutes. You shout me. You just park by the gate. It's just 20 yards from the crossroad in front the.
Well, we will plan it. We will. Joel and Peter and I will plan it.
Yeah, so if you want some today, you know, I want to give you a substitute instead of rice, right? Quinoa.
How you know it's rice I'm having? I didn't tell you that.
No, I'm saying I want to introduce you to an
introduce.
Quinoa.
So you know
right?
you know that I don't know of that food already. You think
right? And couscous. You know, Joel, couscous, United Nations had brought that into a sustainable food. Couscous, it was produced in those West African countries. Very nice, you know. It's a good substitute for rice. And the quinoa, the one I'm using right now is a purple-looking one. They have a white in it. It is very, very strong food, but it's expensive to keep up buying it.
Mm-hmm.
Those and bulgur. So I'm asking anyone who listen want to change their diet, try to get involved in those kind of food, the bulgur, the couscous, and quinoa, Q-U-I-N-O-N-A-I, something. So thanks a lot, man. We got.
Well, thanks for the offer, and we will take it up.
I open up to say you all have my number, man. The food is done cook and now when turn off the pot, they just simmering. 2 kind of beans, the red beans and pinto beans, both cooked together.
Pinto? You said pinto beans?
Pinto, yeah, pinto. It's
and
a kind
which
of
one?
Beans look like
which one is grown? Which one is grown locally or in the backyard? Any of them?
No, none grown locally. And we could grow.
Man, you got to cook beans that you grow in the backyard or somewhere locally.
No, I got some kind of plague that eat down a lot of my plants, so I cannot plant. I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of them. I got to be moving around things in night when I set them and so on. But talking about beans, Cecil, quickly. You remember when Comrade came back, somewhere from Nicaragua and them places there, he was emphasized, he mentioned one thing, but nobody picked up on it about growing our own beans, right? It can be done. We could produce some of the best beans, Because beans
we do produce good beans.
Yeah. We beans is very expensive now. You imagine a pound of red beans is $10 and $11. And Jamaicans grow their own red bean basically, because when I was living there in 89, I surprised everywhere market go, it's endless beans like joke, and these farmers grow them. So it can be done because I tell a lot of elder people, I say, look, just buy a pound of beans, soak it overnight, and especially black eye and the red beans, right? It's very good, especially black eye is good for women. And you plant them and you see what transpires. Very easy to grow. It don't have much set of fertilization and on to be done. So I think Minister Cecil, you should push that effort there. Get 2 farmers, 3 could involve in it. Grow about 1 acre or 2 of beans, black eye and red beans. The price maybe can go down a bit affordable for people. And natural protein are the best for your body and your brain. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that is it.
You need them yourself, so you're just sharing the good news. But I just want to say before you go, that we have to also admit and recognize that Senator Chevron John welcomes the idea that the government is going to acquire Baliso. And in fact, to quote her, she said, "Being a proud Garifuna woman, I was happy to hear the announcement by Minister of Finance on the government's intention to acquire Baliso." So I just want to give that recognition as well, that Senator Chevron John is supporting the government certainly on the question of acquiring Baliso.
That's very commendable for her because you don't find that much opposition people. As I say, give a government credit, not because it's opposition, give credit where it's due. So when you oppose government and you want to give commerce fire, he will take it out now, you know. But if you are demonizing man every time, what you expect, you know, and you get no credit. That's why I keep continuing saying, yeah.
Cecil, I
Yeah.
also wanted to commend the Senator John as well.
Let me find out. So, Bongo Shakasari, you ready to go, right?
Anytime.
All right, then. All right. Well, thanks for calling and for all your suggestions. And the offer, we'll take it up.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
Then.
You know,
Good.
I'm here. I just
Good.
turned off the stove. Everything
Yeah,
is
yeah,
ready.
yeah.
And
All right.
I have some cake. We can't take. Won't take
Yes,
you no time.
sorry, not today. I don't think it's today, but we will take it up. All right. Take care.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, yeah. Let me see for next week.
Yeah, I will let you know.
Have more variety.
You will let you know. We'll let you know. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Thanks.
And you will promote, and then when I develop a restaurant, maybe collaborate with Joel, a partnership, we will get a lot of clientele, you know.
All right. Joel want to finish his point. Okay, thanks for calling.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and I appreciate that, Cecil. And
All
you
right.
ain't run me for 3 minutes, you hold me, so don't blame me.
All right, my friend. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, and best up to each and everyone out there.
Yes, bye-bye. Yes, Joel, sorry.
Yeah, just saying that towards the end of his presentation, the Deputy Prime Minister and the representative for North Windward saying that he was more or less indicating his goodbye. He's come to the end of a long journey with regard to his involvement in politics. And I think he did mention, he said 36 years. And it's something maybe we'll also have to talk to, I mean, both in terms of Minister Daniel and Minister Stevenson. But the Senator John stood up and also expressed her appreciation for his representation while he was in thing and so forth. And I thought that was quite commendable. And I think I would love to see more of this happening at the level of the parliament. And as I mentioned all the time, that a lot of things, sometimes in the country, sometimes they can start at the level of the parliament. You know, like as I mentioned to you in this discussion before, that when it's like in a cricket match or T20, the cricketers, adversaries during the game, but at the end there's shaking of hands coming, you know, to each other and so forth. Even if somebody went after a long journey, like somebody's retired, like I saw the New Zealander Tim Southey recently retiring from cricket, and he got the full play from the Australians and so on. So I'd like to see that kind of thing, so that the opposition is there to oppose, but it doesn't have to be adversarial all the time in the way that things are and so on. And if we can get this sort of thing happening more often, it is coming. So yes, you mentioned about Senator John supporting the Baliso acquisition. I also just wanted to put in the point as well, as that here's someone whom she ran against 4.5 years ago, that she's also expressing appreciation for his service to the people of North Windward.
Yeah, well, I mentioned the Baliso thing in as much as it's in the budget, and she is of Garifuna stock, and she did support it, so that's important to recognize our support. Pijan, you have more from me for a little bit, man.
Yes, okay. I'm listening.
Okay. All right. So we want to bring in other callers if you wish to make a contribution to the conversation this morning, today. I invite you to call 457-9997, and you can send us a WhatsApp message. You can call WhatsApp or direct that same number, or send us a WhatsApp message, that same number, and we'll certainly get to you. All right, let's take this call. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Mr. Brian and Mr. Providence and Pidian.
Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Listening to that last comment, I'm wondering, let's see that after this election that the opposition gets into government, do you think that they will continue with this plan, what is Baliso,
I don't know. That's pure speculation. What we can tell you is that this government is doing it starting this year. They put aside money for that purpose. And that's what we're talking about this morning. I cannot speculate on the program or plan for the NDP because I don't know what they are.
Well, maybe I can add to your question that maybe we should put the question out. What is the position of the opposition, parliamentary opposition, regarding the acquisition of Baliso?
Yes, that would be a very good idea, so that the citizen society could get an idea of what's happening.
Well, I'm sure they would respond, if not as a party. I'm sure individuals. In fact, you notice that Senator John has already responded.
Yes.
She's on the side of the NDP. She has already responded, but I believe others will.
Yes.
So if they respond, sure, why not? But I certainly can't tell you what they might or might not do. I'll be speculating, and I don't do that.
But we can ask them, Cecil. We can put it to them.
Yeah, but I
You don't want
won't.
to put it to them?
Me, no.
Why not?
If anyone from the NDP is in the studio and we talk about budget, I will put it to them. But they're not in the studio.
Yeah, but okay, but insofar this is a very big thing, and we mention it and so on. We treat it as a big
But you
thing.
have done it. You have asked them. You've done it.
Okay,
But-
but I put it to them. And I am making the. I'm supporting the caller.
Yeah.
Posing the question to the opposition as a party,
Okay.
and not individuals in disparate fashion making a off the cuff comment. But that what is your position regarding the acquisition of Baliso?
But yes, all right. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Okay.
calling. We didn't ask you to say who you are, but we're good.
I'm Mr. Peters from Belmont.
Peters.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Peters. Good to have you on with us this morning. From Belmont, you said? You from Belmont?
Hello?
Did you say you're from Belmont?
Belmont, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks for
All right.
for your call. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody's reminding us. I don't want to be reminded about the West Indies performance in cricket, to be honest.
On this occasion, we can leave it at doing. You know, I am a diehard fan of West Indies cricket, but I think that we should stick with our main topic for today.
No, well, yeah, we're sticking with our main topic for sure. It's just that somebody. Okay. Yeah. You guys have been watching the match, it seems.
Yeah, I looked at the highlights on
okay.
YouTube.
Okay.
I just think that the Pakistanis did something that was not cricket, not good cricket. It was terrible, in my opinion.
Okay.
The Pakistanis didn't even play a fast bowler.
So that wasn't cricket?
Yeah, it's a strategy.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a little bit on. And what they did, they put a tent over that thing, over the field for a few days before, on the pitch, over the pitch.
So you didn't dry out?
They ran heat and thing, they dry out the thing to make it, and the ball just started to turn from 45 degrees right away. And, you know, it exposed our weakness, our frailty.
Yeah,
you know?
well, they need to know how to play balls that turn.
Or maybe what I can say is someone who was born in Richmond Hill, here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, took 7 wickets for 32 runs today for the West Indies against Pakistan.
Oh, okay. What we do know,
That
is there's a Vinci who is the president of West Indies cricket, and there's a St. Lucian who is the coach. And I don't want people down the line to say
no, the coach is
Sammy.
Jamaican.
Manager then. Sammy.
No, Sammy
Darren
is
Sammy.
Sammy is for the one, but it's for the test match cricket.
I know. I thought they say he's now coach for the three
not yet.
levels.
Not yet.
Oh, not yet.
And
Okay.
Bicoli is the
All right, stand corrected. But the point is that we want to see better.
Yeah. I know.
and
I feel like if you want to make a dig at and they got the president of the West Indies Cricket Board.
No, I'm making
Oh,
I'm making an observation
But you don't
that
want
he
to-
is the
I-
he is the president.
I thought you wanted to celebrate the fact that the Vincentian took 7 wickets for 32 for the West Indies today.
Which one?
Jabal Hurricane.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't
And
listen,
it
I
is
didn't watch. I didn't watch.
Declare it's all day in
Actually, he's my cousin. It's my,
yeah, so he
So-
I got 7 for 32.
All right. Well, that's good. But the fact remains that West Indies is doing poorly and has been for some years now. And it's not getting better. It doesn't look so. Well, you guys know my position on West Indies cricket anyway.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
but what do you think, Joel? What do you think I want to highlight that
No,
because Shallow is
yeah,
president?
because I didn't even mention Shallow.
You said the Vincentian.
I said the Vincentian who got the 7 wickets. For
No,
32.
you said the Vincentian is the president. That's what I was talking
And then
about.
he said, so I didn't necessarily even want to call a name because I know there's a.
Is a not Leeward man like you.
He's a North Leeward man like me. It just so happens
Wait.
that his great grandfather is James Augustus Providence.
Well, there you go. Closer than not Leeward.
Closer than North Leeward. But
Yeah.
the point is that sometimes, we'll say that, okay, we know we're not doing well. I mean, we did well in the terms of the T20. So we went from 9 or something up to 3 or 4 and so forth in the ranking. But in terms of test, we got up to 5 and then we gone back down and so forth. But my view on cricket is that the problem goes beyond what's happening at West Indies cricket. It's happening in the school system and thing. I have a son in a secondary school, and that he never had the opportunity in school to hold a bat or ball while in school. And so we have these kind of situations. But may I just go back to and I just want to talk some about health.
Yeah, but bear in mind, I indicated at the beginning that the PM was listening.
sure,
He may
sure.
call, so he may
Yes.
call. But before you do that, somebody, 2 persons, in response to the point you made earlier about, all right. But Joel, let's take this call and I'll come back. We'll come back to you. Except I'm not. Go ahead. I'm having a difficulty.
You
My mouth.
didn't want to read the point that somebody was making, or you?
I'm
you
trying
okay?
to get to it, but yes. The person saying, in all fairness, I have heard Dr. Friday talk about acquiring Baliso, so they will support the acquisition of the island. Give thanks.
Okay.
So there you go. And somebody has said, somebody has said here, Joel. Somebody saying, good, okay, gentlemen, the NDP already made their position clear on the Baliso issue. Yes, they will continue. So maybe the same.
Okay, all right.
So,
Okay,
but we have-
well, then
yeah.
there's no need. Okay, fine. The issue on health. I just, apart from the construction of the acute care hospital at Arnersville, the whole thing, to me, 11 clinics around St. Vincent and Grenadines, to my mind.
Can we take this call?
Sure.
Hold your point. We'll come back to that. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Yes. Just let me turn this down.
Okay.
Miss Harold.
Harold here.
Miss Harold, good morning to you. Happy New Year.
Thank you very much, and same to all of you. I hope you have a good New Year. I know it's going to be a happy part, but I hope you have
Good.
you have a good New Year.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Before I begin what I wanted to say, if any of you gentlemen do not approve of what I'm saying, please stop me immediately.
No, we won't do that.
But you don't, so just yes what I'm talking. I got the distinct impression that Dr. Friday and Mr. Leacock were deliberately accusing members of the government of embezzlement. Shall I go on?
Yeah, go on.
They did not, and they kept on and on about this audit did not agree. The auditors didn't get these figures until late. This did not, they kept on and on about this embezzlement business going on. I
But
read the
just
Uh-huh.
go ahead, but just exercise care step over the line in terms of
I will try. I will try.
of slander.
But stop me immediately if I do step
No,
over that
I think
line.
you're good. I mean, so far, I have no. Well, I certainly don't see. Go ahead.
I know when Miss.
By the
when
way, did you
Minister
say
of Finance got
did you
up.
say they're accusing the government of
The
embezzlement?
government of
Okay,
embezzling
the government.
funds.
Okay, all right.
No, the government of embezzling funds.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I
She
know that
got the
the
distinct
minister.
impression
Mhm.
that
And I
They
know
were
that,
saying
and,
that
yeah,
they were
I
saying.
know. Wait.
Okay, go ahead.
I know that when the Minister of Finance got up in the end to give his final speech, he did bring up this thing about auditors, and they could always have asked and called a meeting and asked to get the figures, whatever it is, an explanation for anything. They didn't do that. They kept on and on about this didn't agree, the auditors don't know, and things like that. And in the end, they were accusing the government of embezzling funds. And that's the impression I got. But in the end, it was not just all the members of government who came down to, and this is where I have to exercise a lot of care. But
then I think that
I
you
got
should leave it.
No, let her finish. No.
May-
Let her finish. Let her finish.
no,
If you can leave the studio if you want, but
No,
she finishing her thought.
Yeah, I know, but may I suggest to you, Miss Harold, that if it's
Tell me,
when
you tell
government, just keep it under the umbrella of.
But that's what she's doing.
No, she was going on to be
no,
specific.
because in the end, it was what they were accusing is not all the members of government they were accusing of it. All the points they were bringing up pointed to the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance. I don't know if you all know. You all were not concentrating on this thing.
No, I was.
And that is what really.
No, don't use that one then. Don't use that one. Don't use that word.
All right, but I don't understand why everybody sat down in that that meeting and not one of them opened their mouth and said that you should not be saying that. You should not be saying that. A young lady got up and made a comment, and she spoke to about and she sat down and she had to listen to this man. All of them jumped up and started to scream that she had no right to say this in the parliament. Why all of them sat down and didn't say anything about what they were saying? What Dr. Friday and Mr. Leacock were saying. Y'all didn't find that this should have been stopped.
Well, who should have stopped them? Who could stop them?
Speaker.
The host of the people in that
then
all the
on
other
the point
ministers
of
should have
order,
said, look, what are you saying?
that person who could have intervened.
Intervened and put a stop to it, and they went on. They took 4 hours.
No. It's Dr. Friday's response was 4 hours, but the others
And he
were
spoke
shorter.
most about auditing. Nobody got to understand what, and he went on, and then Mr. Leacock got up. Mr. Leacock got up and said that he carried on and on about the same thing. I have to think twice before what I'm going to say. So shut me up quick, like the trot. But Mr. Leacock was there. Every now and then he gets a Cheshire grin on his face, a little smile. And I could almost hear what. But they better shut the word. Never mind.
No, well, don't worry. I mean, that was part of the speakers there, or the members on the government side could have moved a point of order or whatever, and it wasn't done. So, I mean, as far as the folks they were okay with it. So, if they want to take private action, it's up to them.
No, but parliamentary privilege.
Yeah, I know. I know it's parliamentary privilege,
but we cannot make we have to be exercise care in terms of statement that we make, because we don't have such.
You mean we on this callers?
Yeah,
I know that. So. I'm aware of that, and that's why sometimes I monitor very closely. But in terms of what Miss Harold said, she's all right. I mean, and we are all right. She wasn't speaking.
I don't think they should have been accusing the government or anybody of things that they were accusing them of at all.
I agree with you, and if I may, I was observing too when the representative for South, Leeward, spoke, and that too was, in my view, I wasn't there, but I might have moved a point of order if I were a member on the government side. because the language that he used certainly was not, in my view.
And what did the speaker say?
The speaker didn't say anything.
But I don't. Are you saying, Ms. Harold, that the opposition cannot level or ought not to level accusations against the government at all? Or
No. But they were not just leveling accusations, They were making it a statement of fact that these things are outstanding in the auditors, outstanding in the books. They don't understand about the overdraft, how the overdraft got over $1 million over the period of time, things like that. And it didn't say it as if to say, well, we know there's an explanation why it was done. They were saying, they were sounding like, oh, something happened to the money and nobody knows what happened to the money.
If it's implied and if they say they don't understand, to be honest, I don't see anything too wrong with that. And then I think the Prime Minister got up as well and spoke at length and to explain the whole concept of a fluctuating overdraft.
Yeah,
and I think that they didn't appreciate I think it was an explanation accepted by all afterwards because they probably weren't aware of exactly what is happening in circumstance of a fluctuating overdraft. And I think the Prime Minister did a good job.
But surely they would know
No,
that.
but what Mr. Harrell is saying, and Mr. Harrell can say what you can repeat it. What you're saying that when they spoke, they gave the impression, or at least Mr. Harrell got the impression that they were accusing the government.
Accusing them of embezzlement.
No.
So that is your observation.
And my response to you, Mr. based on what you just said, that one of them said that they don't understand why the overdraft was exceeded by $1 million or more, right? So if you're reading that, that is an accusation. But I think that in the context of that is okay, but maybe they didn't have an appreciation as to why at times you can go beyond the limit of the overdraft. And then
After
the Prime Minister...
all this long length of time?
Yeah, and the Prime Minister...
Well, no, Jerry, you've been kind. Jerry, you've been very kind to those folks. You've been very kind.
I don't want to hold it for line anymore.
But anyway, the Prime Minister then with it.
But the point you called because, Ms. Harold, because in your observation is that they were accusing the government of embezzlement. That's what you said, right?
Of embezzlement.
Okay, so all right.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling. Okay.
I understand Miss Harold's angst about it, but I don't necessarily, based on what she said, and I listened part of it, I don't say that it goes that far necessarily, unless sometime you might read in the paper and you see something else. And I think that
we have another call. Let's come back. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Yes, sir. The point that
I just pick up your voice. Yes. No, it's all right. I just pick up your voice. Yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think it is good practice, Cecil, and it's all part of getting our society to a place where we have the respect for each other. I'm speaking to Cecil, and I believe that Cecil should have a right to know who he's speaking to, or who he's speaking with, whatever the case is. I totally support that. I think it's good manners. It is proper etiquette. You know the word, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
But I want to speak really about the accusations that the parliamentary opposition and their supporters continue to make. They did it in Parliament, and they do it more so outside of Parliament, about the issue of accountability and, by extension, corruption in government. And I think what the opposition did during the debate is to point out to the voting public exactly why they should not be elected. And I'm not talking about elected as government or opposition. They should not be elected. Because here you have, and I am dealing with the last 7 or so years, when Dr. Godwin Friday served as leader of the opposition. The one function provided to them as opposition in the House of our Parliament, they have not made one attempt to do it. And having not done it, they come to the Parliament and they make these accusations. You know what the disservice these guys have done to themselves? Is to render them in a situation where they do not understand government, they do not understand how government works, and they have lost an important opportunity to do so if they had convened the Public Accounts Committee. What I mean by this, you have an audit report before you which covers the entire government. Well, the audit report plus the accounts that were audited, that covers the entire government. And this gives you an opportunity to call accounting officers, accompanied by the chief technical officers, to come to you in the Parliament, because the Accounts Committee is part of the Parliament. It should be operated with the same guidelines of Parliament. As I said elsewhere, the only difference between the Accounts Committee and the whole of Parliament is this time the opposition leader will preside over the meeting. And they're failing themselves and they're failing the country badly by not presenting themselves in this meeting so that the accounting officers could explain to them what happens in government. If you take, for example, the overdraft balance, they make it seem as though the government go to the bank and negotiate, lend me $85 million, and the government put it in the treasury or put it wherever and spend it. The average person out there who operates a checking account knows that's not how overdraft works. In the government account, the government receive monies which are deposited into the account and they spend monies. As government grow, as our economy grow, the payments are larger. Generally speaking, they're larger. For example, if you take salaries is now what, on the average, $30 million per month. That is much larger than when we had an overdraft of, say, $30 million. How this affect the overdraft? At the end of the month, at the 29th, the 28th, 30th of the month, government pays out this $30 million in one swoop. One large payment, even though the payments are going to thousands of individuals. It is a large payment that is being made at the end of the month. Government are collecting larger amounts as well.
But that's why it may not necessarily come from the overdraft. On occasions, yes, but not all the time necessarily.
No, I'm not saying all the time that they come. I'm getting the, Joel, today or tomorrow, the government is making this payment and they may be at, let us say, the balance on the overdraft may be, say, $70,000, $70 million. But it is required to get 30 million. 30 million is going to take them up to over the $85 million. So the balance may go over the $85 million today, but by tomorrow, checks are coming in, other persons are making payment, and that balance will be reduced immediately. Now, where the Public Accounts Committee comes in and informing the parliamentarians who sit on that committee, the Accountant General who does that, who operates government accounts, who pays these checks, these members of parliament have an opportunity to ask the Accountant General to explain these things and get a proper explanation. But rather than doing that, they fail to carry out their duties, and at the end of it, they go to the public and make all of these accusations that Ms. Harold are talking about, as though the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister spends government money. It is time that our people understand that no minister in this country spends government money. None of them spend government money. Government has a system where civil servants are the ones who spend the money. The Prime Minister may direct the civil servant to pay him some money, but the civil servant has an obligation to ensure that payment is within the law. They must make sure that that payment is in the law, because they are the accounting officer. They will be held culpable, not the minister, unless it is shown that the minister did something that contributed to them spending this money. It is more than time that we call and we challenge the opposition in this. I've been doing so for a few years now. I've gotten to the point where one member of parliament indicated to me that he will ensure that the Public Accounts Committee meet. And on Friday, when I heard them appointing a Public Accounts Committee, nominating persons to serve, I just had to laugh, because if 7 years you have not held one, I don't know why you continue to put up names to say you're going to have a Public Accounts Committee.
If I may just add in the land, just so I was a bit surprised too that the Prime Minister had to step in and say, wait, there's 6 members on the government side and 4 on the opposition, but the opposition had actually stated 5. And then so they had to remove Israel Bruce from the list. That they should know it's 6 and 4. But
you have been to support my point, Joel, and thank you. I totally agree with you.
Mr. Weeks, I think I heard an explanation some years ago that given the imbalance of opposition members versus government members, calling a Public Accounts Committee meeting is difficult because they often don't get a quorum. Have you ever heard that?
Yes.
Mr. John, there is no difficulty in calling a meeting. You agree with me on that?
No, calling a meeting is one thing. Getting the attendance is another.
Yeah, but you have an obligation to call the meetings, John. You have an obligation to call the meetings. You have an obligation to attempt to convene the meeting.
I agree with that. I agree with it totally. But I'm wondering if the explanation that I heard, I don't know if you've ever heard it before, if it makes any sense.
I heard it and I reject it completely. The Constitution mandates you that you ensure that we have a Public Accounts Committee, and the leader of the opposition has an obligation to ensure that he calls he attempts at least to convene the Public Accounts Committee. Now, suppose for one reason or the other you can't find a quorum for the Parliament. What are we going to say? Don't call any meetings and just allow the government to go on to rule forever like that? No, it's an obligation given them. They actually have duties. The Constitution stated as a duty for these persons to carry on, and they're failing to carry out these duties under Chapter 76 of the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
But Lansford, let me ask you, is it a requirement to determine before the meeting is called that you don't have a quorum?
That never happens, Cecil. You go to the meeting and that's where you determine whether
exactly,
or not you have a quorum.
That's the point I wanted to address.
Well, let me...
But hold on, there's something else.
To Pigeon. That's exactly what I am saying to Pigeon. There's no difficulty in calling the meeting. Call the meeting and let the meeting decide.
Yes.
Let those present decide that there's no quorum.
And for the Lansford,
for that.
If the meeting is called and there's no quorum, does that prevent you from having a discussion?
But that's the point. You may have civil servants who are sitting there before you, waiting for the meeting to convene, and they may be willing to spill their guts. If so much corruption is taking place, there may be civil servants who will be there sitting, waiting for the meeting to convene, who might be willing to spill their guts.
Because in my understanding
guys
of the way
have
things, sorry, you said, what did you?
I'm just going to repeat something that I said earlier, that these guys are losing on a serious opportunity because none of them have cabinet experience, none of them have experience in running a ministry, and they are losing serious opportunity, a very serious opportunity to learn, and they have failed themselves miserably.
I want to ask the question.
But before you, let me just finish my thought on it. So I was asking Lansford, my understanding of a quorum is to ensure that when a meeting is called and decisions are made, they become, whatever it is, becomes legal. But you can have a meeting without a quorum. You can discuss issues without a quorum. But in the wherever a quorum is missing, the only thing is that you cannot make a decision that would stand. But you can have a meeting without even a quorum. That's my understanding of the things around.
I agree with you, Cecil, but it seems as though not even their own business they need to discuss properly. Because when you look at their presentation in the parliament, generally speaking, and even during the budget period, you can see so many areas where each person is debating in a direction that is different to the other persons.
Joel, before you come in, I just want to share this, in as much as Lansford is still on, share this comment that a senior counsel just shared with me, saying, a person who follows our program, as I said, he's a senior counsel. First of all, to the point that Ms. Harold raised, he said, there is parliamentary privilege, but you cannot impute improper motives. And he goes on, it's good that PM replied. And then he says, the caller is right, meaning you, Lansford, the caller is right, with a host of exclamation signs. I just wanted to share that.
Sorry, Joel, I think you wanted to make a point.
Yes, I really want to ask, I want to pose a question to you. And the question is prefaced with this comment that if I were in the opposition and so on, it's an excellent opportunity to get information as to what the government is doing right and what the government is not doing right, and so on. So I would want to have the Public Accounts Committee convened as often as it is practicable and allowed within the law. So my question to you is, why then, therefore, that the opposition is not seizing the opportunity to convene these meetings?
I think it's laziness, quite frankly, Joel. I think they're just lazy, and I believe that the inexperience of the opposition leader doesn't, and I think he lacks confidence in that regard. And so all of those things combine, that he just sit still and allow time to pass without this important function of government and governance in our country being carried out.
I believe they might have attempted to call one meeting, as far as I may, some time ago. And
not under this current leadership, Joel. My memory tells me that in 2010, when a special audit was done in a program, a project in the Ministry of Health, the opposition attempted to convene a public accounts committee, which I, as the accounting officer at the time, was willing and prepared to attend once I am called upon. And some of the mischief that they spread over during that period, we would have seen differently. As a matter of fact, I say publicly now that the persons who instigated, some of the persons who instigated that special audit may have had questions to answer if the opposition had done their work. And maybe sometimes this is why they're not interested in having the meeting, because they might be afraid of what might come out of these meetings and discuss. It might well be their supporters who work in the government that they might find culpable for some of the things that they're accusing the government, the politicians of doing. Because as I insist, and it is more than time that we get our population to understand the drill, and you as a head of a large company know that on a day-to-day basis, you as the head of the company don't spend your company money. You have accountants and you have persons in that department who spend the money. At the end of the day, the responsibility is yours to ensure that the rules that your board and your organization set up are carried out. But if your auditors failed, or your finance committee, the finance committee in your board failed to carry out their duties of ensuring that the queries raised by your auditor are properly answered and the board knows what is going on. Because that's one of the and I'm using the analogy of your company, Joel, because it's one of the duties that the Public Accounts Committee has to do, is to report to the Parliament on their findings. So I'm using the analogy that if that subcommittee of your board don't do their work, I believe you as the manager, Joel, the CEO, would have taken issue with it.
So could that be the answer then? That if they have a Public Accounts Committee and they have nothing to report to Parliament that suits their purpose, then it's not in their interest to convene a meeting in the first place?
I agree with you, Joel. I think that's one of the points I mentioned. I think it's a combination of several things. One, that point you made. Two, laziness on their part, because we see it every day. You have one meeting after 3 months in the year. After 3 consecutive months, you have one meeting, and they're making a whole fuss about spending 15, 16 minutes in that meeting to get the work done. These guys are lazy. They're lazy. And I think, very importantly, that the opposition leader lacks the confidence to operate as an opposition leader in our parliament. And that's why so often you see people like Sinclair Leacock have to stand up and behave in the way he behaves.
So my question, Lancelot, my question then is, how can we work together to ensure that, to encourage, I should say, the meeting of the Accounts Committee?
I have been doing it for many years now, Cecil. I've been calling consistently. I have spoken to members of the opposition individually. As I said, I had a public commitment by Mr. Leacock not very long ago that within a month or two, he would have ensured that he got his leader to convene the committee. And that's why I said some time ago, that Leacock's presentation in the Parliament may have just been an attempt to embarrass Friday. Because as Minister of Finance, Gonzalez said, all of what Leacock said, I think that should have been dealt with in a meeting of the Public Accounts Committee rather than presented as a part of a debate in Parliament. And I somewhat want to suspect that Leacock was showing up Friday. Let me show the public that you're not convening this committee. I can't get to ask the civil servants. So I say it in the Parliament. Call the meeting Friday. I think that's what Leacock was saying.
So Lansford, maybe you need to increase the frequency of your call on.
I noticed that several persons who are calling for it as well. Mm-hmm. Now, even persons who we know support the NDP or put another way, persons who would like to see the NDP replace the European government are calling on them to convene the committee. So let us hope. We can look forward to it. This is an election year.
Mm-hmm.
If your key supporters are saying that you're lazy and that's why you're not calling, I'll give another reason why you're not calling. Maybe we'll see one coming up soon. Mm-hmm. But I keep repeating that these guys have lost a very important opportunity because none of them have experience in a cabinet. I know Fitzbarlow often speak about himself as an economist in government. I know Fitzbarlow was my colleague in the Central Planning Division. Fitzbarlow did not hold the post of economist. Fitzbarlow was a senior projects officer in planning as far as my memory goes. Fitzbarlow was a senior projects officer. None of them have experience in the administration of government. And they will be for a rude awakening if they were to take power in this country to run government.
Mm-hmm. That's what, as you're aware, the supervisory and what's the other name, Pijan, for the committee in the credit union? Supervisory
and compliance.
Supervisory and compliance committee functions to keep the finances of the credit union intact and to supervise generally what's happening in the credit union. Is that the similar role that the committee should play, the accounts committee, in terms of making sure the government?
Sister,
it is. You're saying it is. Yeah,
it is. But what is more important in the case of the Public Accounts Committee, the highest law of our country, the Constitution, gives them the functioning in that way as their duties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
I don't know if you guys are seeing the importance.
No, I follow you and clearly, and I support you, and I see the importance. I read it in the Constitution, so I want to, and that's why I ask you, how can you increase the frequency of your call? You know,
well, as long as I speak, and I think everybody, including the members of the opposition, know how I feel about them not having this. But just quickly before I go, I want to make one correction. I said Chapter 76 of the Constitution previously. I think it's Section 76. Yeah. That's where the Public Accounts Committee is mentioned, and that's where either 76 or 77 the duties of this committee is provided. It doesn't say that the opposition leader is head, but by practice and tradition, it is his responsibility.
Well, yeah,
it's
important just to raise this thing, Lansford. I just want to know, in terms of the Public Accounts Committee, they make decisions in what comes to Parliament, because if there's a decision made against a proposition being put forward by the opposition, what happens? What goes to Parliament? Because remember that the government would have 6 votes in a situation and the opposition would have 4. So what happens if the government side, the members say, no, that ain't go through that, and we're voting against that? What happens? What does the leader of the opposition bring to the Parliament?
Joel, I think you're just being mischievous, because you and I know that as head of any committee, as head of any organization, you have serious influence and power in the way you do your work. The Constitution says that they must report to the Parliament, but that's not the only thing that comes out of the Public Accounts Committee meeting. As I said, Joel, if you have civil servants who are not allowed to do their work, They are always ready and willing. Well, very often they may be ready and willing to spill their gut. I speak about Jamaica very often because I follow Jamaica as the oldest independent country in the Caribbean. And their governance practices in many instances are advanced to ours. And I know during the life of the current JLP government, there has been members of government who have been taken to courts. Minister Reid, for example. There have been members of government, I'm talking about politicians now, who have had to resign, leave the cabinet, in instances leave the parliament on the basis of the work done by their public accounts committee and other arms of government that deals with integrity and so forth. Currently speaking, the Prime Minister himself is under a lot of pressure in Jamaica and Johannes based on the work of the Integrity Commission, the Integrity Commission. So I'm making the point, Joel, reporting to Parliament is one thing. But in as much as the opposition continue to make the accusation of corruption and lack of accountability, if they meet, they will be able to do much more than simply reporting to
the Parliament.
The Parliament.
Lansford, before you go, and we have to end in a while, but before you go, I want to read a message that came in from someone who refers to him or herself as Bekwe Mike. It is saying, good afternoon. Sometimes something is missing, but I think it means it is irresponsible. I don't know. It should be irresponsible, really, for you as the host of the program to allow persons to continue on the program and allowing them to ramble on. And if someone calls with a different point of view, you will constantly interrupt them and do not allow them to finish the point. I'm having difficulty reading because of the way it is written, the grammar and so on. You need to be more fair in handling the program. That's addressed to me. But the person referred to you being on the program now as rambling. But I just want to say that, first of all, monitoring the program is my responsibility, and I take that very seriously, and I've had years and years of doing that. But also, the points that you were making this morning are points of high relevance and significance. And I know for sure when there are moments like now and on this very occasion, your call, that the nation needs to hear. And no one who calls himself Bekwe Mike or whichever Mike can determine how I run this program. I make the determination as to what materials or what a caller, not what, but when a caller is making points for the nation to hear. And this morning, that's what you've been doing. So I just want to point that out in case.
But Cecil, you guys have asked me many questions.
Exactly.
Being here this morning, but you see, Bekwe Mike is a very smart person, yeah?
I don't know who the person is.
Bekwe Mike want to take you out for courts.
Oh, okay.
Violating his constitutional right.
But he should
for you all to ask him to tell you all who is speaking to you. In other words, I'm saying, Cecil, sometime in the past you asked this man to say, who am I speaking with? That's usually common courtesy that you don't have to ask somebody. You shouldn't have to ask somebody to tell me who am I speaking with.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a man who goes in the public and say, you can take you all to court. So,
okay.
Don't bother with it.
Well, I just thought I'd raise it because I know it's not the first time. And certainly the information that you shared on the program this morning is of high quality, certainly correct, and it's what we would want the listeners to hear. But this person, some other person has sent this one. The checks and balances are the right to ask the Minister of Finance questions on the accounts or overdraft, and the supervisory role of the Public Accounts Committee. So again, the supervisory role of the Public Accounts Committee.
That's foolishness. The minister don't spend the government money. Why can't they understand that? The minister do not spend government money. The accountant general is the one who has responsibility for spending government money, supervised by the Director General of Finance.
Mm-hmm.
When are we going to understand that? That's the main thing I want all people to understand,
You just got to keep repeating it, Lansford. You just got to keep repeating and repeating. That's the thing.
Yeah, the sooner we understand that is it better, is it least frequent we'll make some of the accusations that we hear. Persons speak baselessly, because the folks who they support are not making an effort to understand government and how government works, and believe that they will win an election, and they will walk in, and they will start to spend government money.
Well,
that's the implication,
Yeah, we hope
that's the implication. They will walk in, they will win an election, and they will walk in, and they will start to spend government money. But I am sure if that is the case, civil servants will spill their guts.
Mm-hmm. All right, Lansworth, thanks a lot.
Sorry for taking up so much.
No, it's all right. It's all right. It's important. The points are important.
I hope we can get Professor Robinson.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. I should say, even as you're there, that he has confirmed next week Sunday. So you'll be on next week Sunday.
Yes. I take the liberty to say Justin. I hope we get Justin next week.
Yeah, well, you're right. He has confirmed that he will be on next week, Sunday.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Have a great week, man.
You too. You too. All right. Thanks for calling. All right. I know somebody was. All right, but that sounds like, we have a call. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Hi, good afternoon, Cecil. It's Ralph.
Yes, PM. Greetings.
I know you're at the terminal stages. I don't know.
Yeah, we are.
Whether I'd be accommodated or perhaps next week.
I'd rather next week, Prime Minister, because it will be truncated today. Because
I wanted just to identify all the legislative and other measures we have taken on administrative measures to strengthen accountability and transparency in government. We have repealed the old act dealing with public finance, and have the Finance Administration Act and regulations, modernize that. We changed the law in relation to strengthen the office of the Director of Audit by repealing the old Audit Act and have a new one, which is stronger and better. Did the same thing with the procurement laws. The procurement board is independent. They publish everything which comes before them. We have equipped the audit in a way, the Director of Audit's office and staff it in a way that it has never been before, and I can give lots of data on that. In respect of the accounting processes inside of the Accountant General's office and in the Ministry of Finance, data could be provided for that. The way in which the office of the Director of Public Prosecution, we have strengthened it in a raft of ways, and the government has been calling for the Public Accounts Committee to meet. And when I was leader of the opposition, I called several meetings of the Public Accounts Committee. You may remember that Annie Musas wanted, then as Minister of Finance and Prime Minister, wanted to pay. A particular person was a diplomat $110,000 in reimbursement for certain things. And I say you have to come on to the Public Accounts Committee. They had to come there to justify, and there was no justification because there was no proper account by this official. And that money was never paid. As Stephen Joachim, for instance, I brought him to the Public Accounts Committee, and so on and so forth when he headed the National Lottery. I just want to say that as a foretaste as to the sort of things which I did when I was leader of the opposition. And I was leader of the opposition only for a very short period of time, from 1999 to 1998, October 1998 until March 2001.
And Prime Minister, you were the chair of that committee at the time, in that period.
Chair of that committee, and
yes.
this thing is this, P. John or Joel. You report, the committee reports to the Parliament. If the government members, the number of them, outvote the opposition side on any issue in the Public Accounts Committee, that is of no moment. The chairman still has the report sent forward, because the office of the clerk of the House will have someone there to take the minutes, and those minutes are prepared. And at the beginning of the next meeting of Parliament, you submit the report as how we submit other reports from select committees, but this is a specialized committee which is mentioned in the Parliament, which is mentioned in the Constitution, and the Director of Audit would be there, the Accountant General will be there, the Director General of Finance and Planning would be there, and the individual responsible for the particular area which may be under inquiry, whichever public servant it is. And remember this, in the estimates, and I pointed this out when in my presentation, I remind everyone that there's a list of accounting officers. It's Appendix 4 in the estimates. You take the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning, and Information Technology, all items. The accounting officer is the Director General of Finance, Economic Planning, and Information Technology. In the office of the Prime Minister, the Cabinet Secretary is the accounting officer. You see, they could try and play on the ignorance of some people, but the bulk of the people in this country know that we run a clean government. And occasionally we have found public servants being brought to the law courts if they've been involved in any criminal activity, and there's specific provisions in the Constitution dealing with in the criminal code dealing with official corruption. You know, all these are points. I'm making them in a summary way. I can say far more on this. But when I dealt with the issue of the overdraft, I don't know if Ms. Cyril had heard me. I said one of the more insidious things about this, when they talk about the overdraft and they imputing something improper about us as politicians, that we don't call the bank about anything concerning an overdraft. An overdraft is set by Parliament, and if it reaches the limit, and the Director General alone or the Accountant General will contact the Chief Executive Officer of which bank we have the overdraft, in this case, the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, though we can go to other banks according to the resolution passed by Parliament. And so, well, listen, I have a bullet payment to make on something. I need to go over this. I can't get to Parliament. The government can't get to Parliament in time because you have to give so many days to Parliament. There's a payment which has to be made. And sometimes the bank itself would know that it has money which it is to pay to the government. Like, for instance, interest levy. I would say, well, they have a certain amount of money there. In any case, the government would have other monies in other segregated accounts. when you go to the overdraft, it doesn't mean that the government doesn't have any money anywhere else. It's like you, Joel, operating an overdraft. You may have a money in your savings account, but decide you will use your overdraft because you don't want to touch certain monies.
Correct.
Eh?
Correct.
I mean, where the minister is responsible, the minister is responsible to answer questions in the parliament for matters under his ministry. So if asked about a matter for which the Director General of Finance and Planning is the accounting officer, the Director General of Finance and Planning, when that question comes to the minister will give the question to the Director General of Finance and Planning and say, provide the facts on this matter. That's how it's done, you know. But everybody who has been speaking on this, they're quite correct that the opposition has been in dereliction of its duty for 21 to 24 years, and Friday now for the last 7 years plus, by not having a public accounts committee meeting. I have called for, I've asked people in when the International Monetary Fund comes in for the usual consultations, I say, when you all meet the opposition, please ask them to call the public accounts committee meeting.
Are there any special rules governing the operation of the committee?
What would govern it would be the normal rules with for instance, there are rules relating to the Standing Committee on Finance. Those rules would apply mutatis mutandis, that is to say, as the circumstances, as the change in nature of the committees. And if you have any query about any procedural matter, you use normal parliamentary practice or Robert's Rules of Order, one of the standing orders. And in fact, on the issue of quorum, for instance, if the opposition turns up and no member from the government side turns up, the meeting can go on, you know. All the chairman has to do is not to draw attention to the issue of the quorum if nobody raises the quorum. You see the point I'm coming?
That's true. That's what we do in credit union.
And one member from the government turns up and the 4 members from the opposition turn up. The meeting would be quorate.
Yes.
So all that is red herring. That's foolish talk. I used to call the Public Accounts Committee meeting as once opposition leader. And I held persons' feet to the fire. And the minutes were taken and I reported as opposition leader to the parliament on the holding of the Public Accounts Committee. Simple. But I think laziness is one, lack of interest is another. But because they know, Lanson said several things that the truth will come out about their allegations. And it may turn out that there may be this or that official who probably did something wrong, whom they would want to be singled out. So it's better you come and make these grandstanding statements in Parliament. Or if they don't make the actual statements, Joel, you make imputations from which people like Ms. Harrell, discerning persons like Ms. Harrell will draw certain inferences. That's what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I look forward to next week. I don't know if you have any question. I know you're over time. If you have any question you want me to answer very quickly, I can do so.
Gentlemen, we'd have to. But would you be able to call us next week, Prime Minister?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll be able to call you next week.
Yes.
I was going to call you just before Lansford, but then when he called, and he was so lucid, so clear, and understanding how the system works, that it was absolutely brilliant. And I know this fella Beckwith Mike, his head must be in the sand somewhere on Princess Margaret Beach.
Somebody describe him otherwise, but I won't say how.
Yeah. All right then.
Thanks a lot for calling.
Thanks.
All right then, good. Bye-bye. Yes, there's some, funny enough, our good friend from Beckway, Lucille, describe this character, Beckway Mike, in some of the words, but I want to read her. I acknowledge her WhatsApp, but I won't read it. All right, so gentlemen, we've had a good discussion, I think, notwithstanding the fact that we couldn't have Professor Robinson due to his own situation there, where he lives in Antigua. But we are glad that he will be on with us next week. So we tell our listeners that we would look forward to next week's discussion on that. In the meantime, Pijan, on behalf of Pijan and Joel, my name is Cecil Ryan. Good afternoon.